Okay, tonight we are going to talk about the college scandal. It's not related to guns or knives, but it's related to law and justice and stuff like that. And I typically cover stuff like that, so here we go, okay? Um, there was a major scandal uncovered recently in which a single figure had made millions upon millions of dollars helping kids get into college, basically through bribery, thievery, um, manipulation, all sorts of things. There are believed to be 50 defendants. Two of them are famous actresses. Felicity Huffman, who was married to, how's the guy's name? Yeah, him. William H. Macy. And Lori Loughlin, who was Aunt Becky. They're the major players, but there's several others. Now, I am gonna talk about a few personal things here. I had an aunt and uncle on my mother's side of the family who are not very smart, and they had a hard time getting through school, learning disability and stuff wise. So they were taking a math test, and they were in the room with only the teacher and themselves. And the teacher, my aunt 1 year, and then a couple years later my uncle. I remember the same teacher. I heard his name once. He literally gave him the Scantron sheet, the test booklet, and he snuck the answers under the test booklet and said, "Psst, get some wrong on purpose." And that's how they got out of high school. Okay, now, am I proud of that? No. I'll be honest, I'm not proud of that. Yeah. Now, my uncle, my father's side of the family, my Uncle Vinny, as a matter of fact, he had a friend a long time ago who ended up committing suicide due to stress. You ever see these guys that are like 12 years old and studying astrophysicists and shit like that, and these fucking 12-year-old kids that are computer geniuses, and they got 12-year-old kids in medical school, okay, those super genius kids. My uncle knew one of those guys growing up. And when the guy was late teens, early 20s, he started a business. He takes your SAT for you and gives you the grade you want. Now, typically you take your SAT in high school, in your high school, but every once in a while, guys want to take it a second time to get a better score. So there are other colleges, testing centers, schools that will offer SATs periodically throughout the year. You look it up, and every couple of months you see an SAT being offered somewhere. Yeah. And he would go to these different testing sites, and he would answer the questions right or wrong to get you the score you wanted. Is that honest? No, it is not. I'm not going to lie about that. Now, what these guys were accused of, and like I said, there's about 50 different cases they know about, is one thing they would do is they would take the SAT, and the kid would pretend to have a learning disability, ask for a private session with only them himself and the proctor, and the proctor would give them the answers. Another method is they would hire some really smart kid to take the SAT for them in one of those learning centers, one of those testing centers. Another thing they would do is they would take the SAT and have an inside guy get the test, get the answer key, and fix a couple answers before it goes into the Scantron machine. Now, for those that don't know, and we were taking these tests for civil service tests, we take these tests for high school, college. Okay, I've been taking these since second grade. Okay, where you have the Scantron sheet, and you fill out number 2 pencil only, and it goes into a machine, and the machine grades it right, wrong. Okay, score is 75, whatever the fuck. Okay, now typically, when you take a state test or a civil service test or any number of things, they try as hard as they can to have proctors that don't know the material. So you could be taking a test for the fire department, and the proctor works for the sanitation department. That way they don't know the answers and they can't help you when they want to. Also, proctors, whether they're proctoring a high school exam, a college exam, or a civil service exam, they are forbidden from helping you, period. They write the instructions on the board, give you the test, and you take it. They're not allowed to help you in any shape, way, or form, because reading the instructions and doing the test is part of the test. And any proctor that is caught helping a student is sort of termination from their job. So you got a guy who's working a full-time job for the city or a teacher, and they're getting paid overtime on a Saturday to administer a test for some reason. Okay, if they help you out, they get fired. And if they're trying to build a pension and retire, and they're on the job 15, 16 years, okay, making $70,000 a year. Ugh. Okay. Now, typically, you don't get, when they give the tests, the answer key is not within 50 miles of the building. A lot of times when you go to put the scan in, okay, the computer will have the answer key uploaded by someone, and then someone else will come in and feed the cards, the Scantron cards. So the two people don't know the answers. They're very, very sensitive about that. So for you to find someone that has the answers and is willing to stop what they're doing, look for your kid's test, take it out, fix it, and then put it into the machine. For you to have the ability to get someone on the inside to do that is very, very, very rare. Okay? Because most of those guys have been background checked and they don't want to fuck around. Truth. Would you? I wouldn't. I wouldn't jeopardize my job. But they did. Another thing they did was they would have college recruiters and college coaches give kids full scholarships for sports they never even played. Now here's the thing about the academic aspect. If you're forging your grades, your SAT scores, whatever, to get yourself look smarter, your college professors are going to figure out in less than a week that there's a problem, because your test scores, your entrance exams, your resume is up here, but in the classroom you're performing down here. So there's something wrong. Now, if you get a full academic scholarship and the coach is in on this exam, when you get to practice, it's going to take your teammates 3 seconds to figure out you don't know the game. And Lori Loughlin, Aunt Becky, her daughters got rowing scholarships. The rowing crew, I don't even know if they ever saw a rowboat in their lives. Okay? Unless you're going to be bribing the teammates to keep their mouth shut, or unless you're going to be bribing the professor to give them good grades. I don't know how they're going to work this out. Now, here's the problem. Because a lot of these people were doing shit across state lines, the college is in one state, they live in another, the guys in one state, okay, this is going across state lines. The FBI got involved because the federal government claims jurisdiction. The other problem is that they were using the mail. They were mailing transcripts, forged letters, forged test results. They were sending them through the mail. Anytime you use the U.S. mail as a vehicle for your crime, it's a federal offense. Okay? So the federal government claims jurisdiction. And Lori Loughlin, she lives in California, but she had to appear in court in Boston. because that's where the case is being tried, so they know a lot of shit. Now, she's free on $1 million bail. Now, bail means that she's allowed to remain free while the case is going on. She can stay in her house. She most likely has to stay in her house and can't go too far. She's probably not going to be allowed to go anywhere other than California or Boston, where she lives and where the trial is being held. And I think they took her passport. They usually take your passport when you're charged with a federal crime. Okay? Now that $1 million bail allows her to remain free until trial's over. After trial's over, she goes wherever she's being punished for. Jail, probation, whatever. And the fact that she's on $1 million bail means it's a very serious crime. Now, the federal government pretty much has you cold because they handle so few cases and they have so many resources that if the federal government is calling you in, odds are they got you. Okay? You very seldom see someone beat a federal case. It does happen, but not very often. Especially cases involving paper trails and shit, okay? Because the federal government, they have these pencil pushers. All they do all day fucking long is sit in office and file paper trails. That's all they do all day long. Okay? Computer nerds, bookworms, okay? And they just sit in the office all day long and file paper and money and they build up fucking cases like crazy. They do. So, and when they say 20 years, that means if she goes to court, goes to trial, and if the jury convicts of every single charge, it's 20 years in federal prison. What most likely is going to happen is she's going to wise up. Only that fool, just Smollett. She's going to wise up. Lori Loughlin, Felicity Huffman, other idiots, okay? They're going to wise up and they're going to take a deal. You plead guilty, and in exchange, you get a lighter sentence. Now, they are first and foremost going to be paying $1 million fines. Okay? That's the first thing. Second, they're going to be on probation. Probation means you go to the probation officer once a week. He makes sure you're working. He makes sure you're staying out of trouble. They're probably going to be under house arrest. Martha Stewart was in house arrest, and the joke was she had an ankle monitor on, but her property was so big, if she went to enter her property, the alarm went off. Okay, house arrest means you have to stay in your house. You're allowed to leave the house for work, and they have your work schedule. You're allowed to leave the house once a week to go food shopping, and you're allowed to leave the house for a doctor's appointment. And they are allowed, and they do keep track of your medical appointments, and they keep track of, they get doctor's notes and stuff like that for you, so you can't just say, I was at the doctor. Okay? If you want to go to a funeral, you have to ask permission. If you want to go to a wedding, they're going to say no. Okay? So you're a prisoner in your own house. And then there's a possibility of actual prison time. She will most likely be Lori Loughlin, Felicity Huffman. They will most likely be sentenced to prison. They may get a couple of years in a minimum security prison. They may be in the prison Martha Stewart was in. But make no mistake about it, prison is very, very, very likely for them. What else happens to them? Some states allow convicted felons to vote after a certain number of years of being clean. The federal government does not. If you are a federal felon, you will not vote. Guns. I don't know how they feel about guns, but they will not own guns ever again. And Barry and Eric have gone over this extensively. Other things. You can be denied a job as a convicted felon. Some jobs be like, okay, fine, you're a felon, I'll give you a second chance. But if the job says, we don't want felons working here, you have no recourse. Some jobs, you cannot be a felon. Government jobs, any job involving children, daycare center, teacher, okay? Boy Scout leader, Girl Scout leader, you can't be a felon. a lot of real estate. Okay, some states barbers can be felons. Okay, if you watch Mob Wives, Big Ange, God rest her soul, Big Ange was a felon. She committed a felony a long time ago. It was a drug felony, and she admitted on TV she was a felon. And Big Ange owned a bar. Now I don't know if the state licensing guys were watching the show, but the state licensing guys found out she was a felon, and they shut her bar down. So you could have a felony conviction, and you could have some kind of license or some kind of business going on because you slipped through the crack. But when they find out the truth about you, and they do further digging, they'll say, "Listen, we did not know you were a convicted felon. Yeah, your business is closed effective immediately, and you have to close your business down, lay off all your employees. Yeah, it happens. Okay, there are a lot of jobs you can't have. Speaking of jobs you can't have, she was on a television show for Hallmark. Hallmark is mostly family, children, all that bullshit. It was about the Canadian wilderness turn of the last century. She's fired. Aunt Becky. Aunt Becky is a role she's had for over a quarter century. Lori, this is Lori Loughlin to talk about specifically. These are her consequences already. Not too much information on Hoffman though. But Lori Loughlin, Fuller House may very well be going off the air after the 5th season. But Lori Loughlin will not be on the show. I don't know if Uncle Jesse's going to divorce her. I don't know if she's going to go to the hospital, but they're going to find a way to make sure Aunt Becky is not on the show next year. So, yeah. Future roles. Maybe HBO will hire her for something. Maybe MTV. Okay, shows, cable shows. Netflix. Okay, Netflix and Full House are on. Yeah, but maybe adult-oriented shows. Game of Thrones style stuff, Walking Dead style stuff like that. Okay, but children's entertainment, family entertainment. Okay, they're not gonna want them. Now, Robert Downey Jr. got a break. When I was in elementary school, Robert Downey Jr. was the biggest drug addict in the world. And one night, he was naked and stoned, and he went to someone's house. And he fell asleep in an 11-year-old girl's bed. 11-year-old girl was at a slumber party and was not home. Parents were home, called police. Police came, arrested him, brought him to court. The judge was sick of his shit, so the judge put him in prison for 18 months. And it was a special prison where he got to have rehab on the cell block. He got out of prison, turned his whole life around, got a couple good roles. Marvel, which is now under the direction of Disney, gave him Iron Man, which is, phenomenal. So he made it. But he's a rare exception. Okay, so he got lucky, Robert Downey Jr. Lori Loughlin may not get lucky. Neither will Felicity Huffman. Okay, they're already being blackballed by the industry. Maybe they'll get an adult role or adult show or movie or something like that. But as far as kids, family, stuff that they're famous for, especially Lori Loughlin, okay, their kids are almost certainly going to be expelled from school. It's like a 99% chance. Because the kids are illegitimate students. They got to school by fraud. Lori Loughlin's daughter, who was a YouTube star in her own right, has a line of hair care products, with the celebrity kids there. The hair company makes a really nice shampoo, and they get some celebrity kid to endorse it, and they give him a cut of the action. That's dropped. So she had a legitimate business going on that made a fairly decent amount of money. And all she had to do was endorse her shit. Okay, all you gotta do is say, "Hi, I'm a celebrity, and I use this product." Money in the bank, okay? legitimate, gone. The students that would have gotten into school are suing the school, and they should. It's one thing if you get a job, if you go for a job interview, and the boss picks this guy because this guy was a little bit better, okay. Or it's one thing if there's 500 kids applying into a school, and you're smart, but there's one kid a little bit smarter than you, and he gets a spot that you don't, and you need to go to your second choice. Yeah. It happens. It does, okay? John Wayne was second pick for Annapolis. John Wayne. Okay? So there's lots of guys that are the second pick or the runner-up pick for whatever prestigious school. And that it happens. But when you find out that the reason why you were rejected was because the guy that was smarter than you had a forged transcript, a fake SAT score, a fake letter of recommendation, you tend to be like, wait a minute, that should have been me. Now maybe the school will wise the fuck up and will admit the kids, like expel the kids that are there by fraud. And if it's not too late, invite the kids that would have gotten in, and invite the second place guy in to the school. Maybe they'll do that, but they're facing major lawsuits. And the parents that were working the scenes, bribing the school, okay, they themselves can be sued personally, and they most likely will be. I will sue them, and if they're convicted in court or plead guilty in court, the lawsuit is a slam dunk. Because if you are suing someone for something and they are convicted in criminal court of a felony related to your lawsuit, the odds of them being the civil suit is astronomical. Because in order for you to be convicted in criminal court, it's guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. In order for you to be held liable in civil court, it's more likely than not. Well, if I'm guilty beyond reasonable doubt, that means I'm liable. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so conviction in criminal court almost always translates to automatically liable in civil court. And if a guy robs your liquor store and goes to prison, you can sue him. But what the fuck are you gonna sue him for? He's a bum. Okay? But if a guy gives some college guy $1 million to get his kid in school before you, you can sue him because he's got money to go after. So they're looking at lawsuits, they're looking at never working again in Hollywood, they're looking at fines, looking at probation, looking at prison. And I can't feel bad for them. Can I feel bad for their kids? Well, it depends. If the kid knew that, don't forget, you're a high school kid and you didn't take the SAT, but you got an SAT score in the mail. So you have to figure out that someone took SAT for you. Or you told the teachers that you were disabled, learning disabled, and you got the answer keys slipped into you, okay? So some of the kids were in on it. And those kids who were in on it, they're 18 at least. They can be indicted too. What will most likely happen is the prosecutor and the judge will tell the parents, take the fall for your kid. Okay? You broke the law, take the fall. Okay? We have evidence that your kid was involved. Okay? We know for a fact your kid got the answers to the SAT. We know for a fact your kid posed for a picture playing basketball when they really didn't play basketball. We know for a fact your kid knew that his SAT was being taken by someone else or whatever, okay? So they'll mostly tell the parents, listen, plead guilty, do 2 years in federal prison, do 5 years of probation after that, pay $1 million fine, okay, and pay restitution to the families that you conned out of the school. The kids that would have gone to school instead of your kids, pay them money. And that'll be that. Otherwise, we're gonna indict your kids. They do that, and they can, because if they have evidence that your kid committed a fucking felony, they can tell you, do you want to go to prison by yourself or with your kid? Okay, they know what to do, and they fuck themselves. And you know what it is? This is useless bullshit. Okay, because your kids may not have gotten into Yale and Harvard, but your kids could have gotten into some school. I went to a community college, and I went to a small private university that was owned by nuns many years ago, and then by the time I got there, it was not owned by nuns anymore. Okay? Yeah. Okay, or you're in the movie industry, tell your agent, give my kid a walk-on role in the next movie. Okay? Or give my kid a job as a waitress in this TV show, and give her a couple of lines a couple of times this season. Okay? Or let my kid be assistant to this singer. Okay? Or they could have said, whatever. Or in Lori Loughlin's daughter's case, she's a YouTube star in her own right, and she had a successful hair product that she was endorsing and getting cardiac action for. Okay? So this was unnecessary. It was unnecessary. And I feel bad for the kids that had to work legitimately. Because my younger niece got a full scholarship for field hockey to about a dozen different schools. And she picked Monmouth because it's close to where she lives. Okay? And they demanded of her. She had to play the sport, and she had to get good grades. She graduates in May, and she's gonna do a special year after that for a teaching certificate. But I feel bad for those kids that have to really work hard and study and practice their sport to earn a scholarship or to earn admission, and they got fucked. I feel bad for them. I gotta get a drink here. Turkey Hill iced tea. Thank you.